you see all these transformation videos. Somebody that was 300 pounds and then over the course of a year, they dropped down to like 160, something crazy like that. And everyone's like, yeah, good job. People save it, people share it. It's a huge deal, and it should be, because that is a huge deal. That's a huge accomplishment. And therefore, that's a huge form of self-improvement. Hey guys, welcome back to Cardio Chats. Today I kind of just like to discuss motivation versus discipline and how you can really continue to go to the gym or do whatever fitness endeavor that you're after for the long haul, because I know that it can be rather challenging in order to stick to this whole like healthy lifestyle that we all know and love. And especially if you're on my YouTube, I'm figuring that you're really into fitness and health and wellness and all that jazz. And so I just kind of like to highlight my own journey and how I've kind of struggled with consistency and motivation and discipline, and how I've gotten better at it, and how I've kind of gone from, a 14-year-old kid to now a 27-year-old adult, and how I've really and I think that I've almost mastered this whole deal. Not to toot my own horn, but at this point in my life, I am extremely diligent with my training. My diet can be kind of all over the place. That's kind of my next frontier, so to speak. But I'm really good about showing up and going relatively hard, at least as hard as I can on any particular day. And it's taken me a long time to do so. So let's just start from the beginning. I mean, when I was 14, I was entering high school, and that was the first time I was introduced to the gym. And I originally went just because I liked the way it felt. And I had never really found a sort of physical endeavor that really struck a chord with me. Like my parents had me play almost every sport from, baseball to basketball to rugby, all these different sports. And I didn't really like any of them. I kind of discovered video games and all went downhill from there until I got into skateboarding. And that was kind of my deal for a little bit. I really enjoyed that. But then I eventually found lifting, and then I was kind of doing lifting and skateboarding. Anyway, that's not really important. But in the beginning, I was not very, disciplined at all. In fact, I don't know who has discipline when they're a 14-year-old boy. But if you do, and you're 14, then fucking good for you. You're doing something right, and you're going to make it really big in life. But for most people, maybe not most people, but a lot of people, they never learn discipline throughout their whole, 70, 80 years on this planet that we all live on. And so to find it that young would be next to impossible. And for me, it was, I would kind of go half-assed. The only reason why I went as much as I did was because of my father is a very, very fit individual. He runs ultramarathon, like 100-mile runs, races, that is, where he's won medals and all this stuff. So, and he's played sports his whole life, very, very physically active, a huge role model in my life when it comes to fitness and health. And so he was kind of like that anchoring point. And of course, like I loved it in myself, because even from that ripe age of 14, that's when I first started writing my own programs and doing a bunch of research, mainly on YouTube, bodybuilding.com, all that stuff. I was looking at powerlifting, strength training, hypertrophy training, endurance training, just to learn as much as I could. And I'd write my own programs. They sucked. They were terrible programs, but it kind of invigorated me to continue going along that journey. And so discipline was really the hardest part, but luckily I had that anchoring point. But what if you don't have an anchor point? What if you don't have somebody that's motivating you? And of course, it doesn't have to be your parents. It could just be a gym buddy. It could be a friend that keeps you accountable. All you need is one other person where, maybe you don't want to go one day, but they're the other voice saying, hey, get off your fucking ass. Don't be lazy. Let's go to the gym. And so You know, that can be a great source of motivation. And when my dad didn't want to go or he couldn't go because of work or whatever, like I would go with my friends and that would just be like a fun time. I mean, you go into a gym nowadays, you can see a pack of high schoolers roaming anytime after 4 p.m. So anyway, so that can be one strategy if you're struggling with discipline. Another one is just to spike your motivation. But, honestly, motivation is a fleeting thing. I'm sure you've heard that saying before, but it is. I mean, motivation is more of a mood. Discipline is more of like you've really set these strict rules with yourself. And moods, of course, we all know can come and go. So what's a good way of modulating your mood? Well, I think that music is a great way. Motivational videos, if that does it for you. You can kind of have like a cue, like a habitual cue, like maybe after you have your lunch and you go for a walk, and then you find your gym bag in a certain corner of the house, and once you see it, then that's your cue to get going. And as you keep doing that cue day in, day out, it's going to get easier and easier to actually fulfill that habit that you have set out for yourself. So those are just a few strategies. Change your mood, motivational videos, whatever. But and my motivation was mainly I have this other person. I'm using this as a creative outlet. I love creating programs. I always have, and I especially did back then when everything was so ambiguous and new. And just kind of trying to become bigger and better than last time. At the end of the day, what is fitness? I mean, it's not only like good for you and is a fundamental principle of the human organism, but fundamental ability, I suppose. But it can also be a form of self-improvement. Like you see it everywhere online. People are like, oh, I transformed myself. You see all these transformation videos. Somebody that was 300 pounds and then over the course of a year, they dropped down to like 160, something crazy like that. And everyone's like, yeah, good job. People save it, people share it. It's a huge deal, and it should be, because that is a huge deal. That's a huge accomplishment. And therefore, that's a huge form of self-improvement. Losing all that weight, gaining all that muscle, whatever it is, huge form of self-improvement. So anyway, throughout the years, I always struggled with consistency, but I never lost my vigor and my passion for the gym. Never. The most amount of time that I probably didn't go to the gym was a month. Most amount of time in one span, that is, probably a month. And it was probably due to either going on like a vacation or due to having like a big test or finals week and things were just stacking up. And of course, that's going to happen in life. You're not always going to be able to go to the gym, fucking 5 to whatever days a week. So, but as I got older, I have just learned about myself more. I know what triggers me to want to skip the gym. I know that if I go out drinking with my friends and I have more than like 4 margaritas, I know that the next day I'm going to have a really tough time going to the gym. Now, most of the time I do make it happen, but if I'm extremely hungover, then I'm more tempted to push it off, and then it's going to really bleed into my workout, and I'm not going to have that great of a workout. Before, back in the day, like when I turned 21 or whatever, if I went out drinking, I would just skip the gym. But now I have developed this sort of resilience where I'm going to go no matter what. I penciled it in. We're going to make it happen. I think a lot of that has to do with shifting my mindset. And morning routines have been a big deal for me. There's a lot of people, they don't believe in morning routines. They think it's dumb. But I'm a huge fan because they saved my life, to be honest. Like I used to be a big partier, stuff like that. And I wasn't in the best mental state. Well, through morning routines and really being disciplined with myself and learning discipline through journaling, through morning walks, through, cold plunges, sauna, all these healthy habits, I have built up a sort of resilience and really educated myself on how to build habits, how to, leverage dopamine in the brain, all these different health related practices. Now, people would call that like, you know, maybe nerdy or whatever, but I think that it's a beautiful thing. And I think that, it can be a great way of getting your day started on the correct foot, on the correct footing. Because honestly, the days that I do a morning routine, the rest of my day is just so much better. And I know that if I do a morning routine, that's almost like a cue for me to go to the gym and kick some ass. So anyway, as I went throughout high school, my discipline, my motivation, my adherence to the gym wavered. I would have weeks where I would go super hard for the whole week. I would have weeks where I would skip half my workouts. I think that's just kind of typical. But as I got older, I think it just changed. And I think a part of that is just growing up and realizing what you are passionate about and realizing what's really important to you. For me, the gym is not only just a hobby to me, it's a passion, it's a way of life. I love it. And back in the day, I wasn't really sure what that was yet, Like you see people like Sam Sulek online. I'm sure you guys know who that is. He's like a celebrity fitness influencer at this point, but he is only like 21 or 22 and his adherence is through the roof and he's huge and he already knew what he wanted. I think that's extremely rare, extremely, extremely rare. A lot of people, they don't figure it out until their late 20s, even beyond, There's people, they don't figure it out until their 40s. It's not super uncommon. It's what's really uncommon is for people to figure it out before like their mid 20s, in my opinion. Because it took me until about the age of 26 before I really figured it out. I'm 27 now, and now I think that I'm finally on the right path. I really love this whole YouTubing creative endeavor that I'm doing right now. But when I was 21 or 22, that was not even on my radar at all. Yeah, I like going to the gym. Yeah, I cared about fitness, but I also cared about a million other things. Of course, I still care about them. They're still a part of me, like the partying and, video games and music and reading and like all these other hobbies that I have. They're still a part of me, but now I know myself well enough to be like, oh, if you spend a lot of time on this, then you're not going to be as good at that. You know what I mean? If you go out drinking with the boys, with your friends, I like the term the boys, with your friends, and the next day, your workout is going to suffer and you're not going to want to go and you're going to be miserable. You're going to do it anyway because you built up all this discipline, but it's not going to be as much worth your time. Now, exercising is, of course, good no matter what, but there's a difference between just going through the motions and actually going hard and causing a stimulus for change, So anyway, that was kind of my journey. Basically, to sum it all up, it took me a while to figure out what I really cared about. It took me a while to build up my discipline. It took me a while to grow up, and I think that most people are like that, but of course there's the outliers like Sam Sulek, and I'm sure a bunch of other fitness people and whatever, there's a lot of people, they find their passion early on and they're like, this is it, Timothy Chalamet, I was just listening to a podcast with him and Theo Vaughn. That guy started acting when he was so young. He found his calling, he found what he was good at, and now he's a huge celebrity. But for not everybody finds that at the same stage in life, and that's okay. So if you're listening to this and you're in high school and you don't know what you want to do with your life, or you're struggling with motivation, discipline in the gym, but you think that you care about it a lot, I wouldn't say just, force yourself to go on a certain path. I would actually encourage you to discover yourself more, because I think that it will come. It's, if you don't know what it is yet, it'll come. It may be later, but that's okay. It's just life. Anyway, guys, that's about all I have to say. So have a good one. Thanks for watching this episode of Cardio Chats. Let me know if you want these to be longer. because I end up doing my cardio for about 30 minutes regardless, but I just tend to kind of run out of stuff to say by the 15-minute mark. I'm sure that I will improve at this. You improve at whatever you do consistently. So I'm sure that I will get better at talking for longer on one topic, but eventually I may branch out into many topics. Maybe they're not even going to be related to each other. Who knows? Anyway, have a good one. Later.